Is the aircon? Hold it. Evening. Evening or afternoon? Ready?
Should be.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our first presidential husting of this year's presidential election. It's fantastic to have everyone watching online and to have loads of our new fellowship cohort and other Jewish students here in person. Today's husting will focus on UJS, JSOT's peer leadership and representation. This evening's hustings will open with a 2-minute opening statement from each of our incredible candidates and close with a 1-minute closing statement. Remember to please get involved with the election and make sure when voting opens tonight at 7 p.m. to go and vote to decide your next UJS president. So we're going to start with opening statements in alphabetical order. So we're going to go Naomi, then Louis, then Daniel from Hustings. Whenever you're ready.
Sure. Jewish life on campus is so special to me. Throughout my time at university, I have worked tirelessly to ensure campus is a safe, vibrant and welcoming space for all Jewish students. First as Cambridge JSOC president and later as campaigns officer. I know how important it is, now more than ever, that UJS fights for you by lobbying the government, holding universities to account and expanding our anti-Semitism awareness training scheme. As campaigns officer, I delivered anti-Semitism awareness training sessions to 40% of all freshers, which made a massive difference in a climate of normalised anti-Semitism. I also ensured we had the university support when we needed it the most. During the encampments, we got a statement of support from our Pro-Vice Chancellor, increased security provisions, and we raised awareness on national media. From the BBC to the Times, we made sure people knew how Jewish students were feeling. But we also need to celebrate our Jewish identities as a community. I will make Booze for Jews a twice-a-year event, increase funding and capacity to keep growing JSOC sports, and introduce a community development grant to provide upfront funding for new JSOC initiatives, sports teams, and minyanim. As JSOC president, I organise weekly themed FNDs for everything, from Taylor Swift to Supper Quiz, alongside flagship events such as a garden party. I also know how much everyone needs to be included in that Jewish joy and community, and I will work hard to ensure UJS and JSOCs are welcoming to all groups, from LGBTQ+ students to religious students to women. I will work with each group to ensure that their voice is heard and to introduce new measures that work best for them. I will also work with the Movement for Progressive Judaism and Masorti UK on their chaplaincy support scheme. I will also work with religious students to ensure all events are fully kosher and accessible to those who keep Shabbat. I know we need specific action for each group, and I know the changes we need to see. I have the experience and skills to enact those changes. I've got your back.
Louis, whenever you're ready.
In UJS, there is incredible diversity. People from Dublin and Glasgow and London and Leeds. People who come from America and Israel, and gold is green. People of different backgrounds, sexual orientations, political beliefs, gender diversity, neurodiversity, modern Orthodox students, Masorti students, progressive students. Even sat up here, there is so much diversity. And yet, we all are here, together, talking about how we can make our Jewish student life better. And I believe that every single UJS member is united by the belief that it's time to reclaim agency over our Jewish student lives. The pain of October 7th and the pain of every one of the 421 days since has been compounded by horrendous anti-Semitism on our campuses. But no longer should we let ourselves be defined by the hate we face. No longer should we let the glorification of terror or the vandalism of our safe spaces or the awful calls for intifada write our Jewish student stories. I believe it's time to fight anti-Semitism with Jewish student pride. And I believe that everyone in this room and everyone watching online and every single Jewish student in the UK and Ireland, everyone has a part to play. That's what my campaign is all about. Jewish pride, Jewish diversity, and Jewish unity. 3 values that I want to put at the core of everything UJS does. That's what I pledge to you under my leadership. I will bring us together behind a year of zero tolerance on anti-Semitism. I will work tirelessly to create JSOC spaces that are genuinely inclusive of all. And I will empower every single Jewish student, no matter their background or identity or beliefs, to feel proud of their Jewish life once again. Proud, diverse, and united. I hope you all agree with those values, and if you do, you should vote Louis Danker for UJS President.
Thank you. And I'm Daniel, whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I'm a third year history student at Bristol. From fighting anti-Semitism as VP of Bristol JSOC to representing you on the Board of Deputies, being elected to its international division or providing security to JSOC with CST, I consistently get stuck in and lead from the front. Despite the immense challenges for Jewish students over the past year, Jewish life on campus is flourishing. My campaign is all about dealing with the challenges that Jewish students face head on and healing divides within our community. I want UJS to be at the forefront of difficult conversations, prioritising your safety and working to better represent you. When I sat down to write my manifesto, I thought about what UJS does well already and where we can improve. It's not about taking away, but adding instead. There are lots of policy areas that I care about and have spoken about over the campaign, but my manifesto is focused on 3 key areas that I can offer bolder and braver solutions to. It's time to recognise that for the past year, UJS has already been doing a pretty good job on an institutional level when fighting anti-Semitism, reacting to it when it occurs. That's why I propose we add to this, and we tackle it from its roots with bold, new solutions. I want to get in the room and empower Jewish students to have the difficult conversations that are required at the moment. I will also discuss the elephant in the room by fostering comprehensive Israel engagement to both heal divides within our community and show real leadership where it matters. I will also tailor support for every JSOC so we can truly recognise the unique challenges that they face and enable them to put on the amazing event that we cherish. It's time for a bolder, braver UJS. Vote for me today and make it a reality.
Amazing, thank you. First time they've all been under 2 minutes, so well done. I don't think we ever did that last year. As you can all see, 3 amazing candidates. So now we're going to move on to some questions from Jewish students from across the UK and Ireland. So firstly, as you know, UJS has core values. If you could change any one of them, what would it be and what would you change it to? Louis, I'm going to go to you first.
Cool. So, I think one of my favourite of the core values is cross-communalism. I think it's incredibly important, but I think we're missing something on cross-communalism. So I would change cross-communalism to active cross-communalism. I think it's all well and good saying everybody is welcome, but we need to show that everybody is welcome. We need to show that every Jewish student, no matter their background, identity or beliefs, belongs in UJS spaces. How do we do that? That's the big question. That's something I've been thinking about quite a lot as UJS National Council Chair. I've revamped the National Council to make sure that every month, everyone on National Council is speaking to at least 5 different Jewish students from different backgrounds and different campuses and asking them, what makes you feel welcome in UJS and what makes you feel less welcome in UJS? And feeding that back to Sammy and the team. It's already led to conversations about things like making UJS Convention more safe for all Jewish students, whether they're modern Orthodox and felt that last year things weren't quite right because the coaches arrived after Shabbat, or the Eruv wasn't right, or there wasn't kashrut, the food was sort of not according to kashrut rules, or whether they are progressive and Masorti and didn't feel their services were properly, supported with resources. I think that's the sort of active cross-communalism we need, putting in the work. So what would I do as UJS president? I would launch a JSOC cultural review. I would speak to Jewish students around the country, and talk to them about what it is they want to see. What makes you feel excluded from your JSOC, and what makes your JSOC more inclusive? I would take that all together and I would deliver it in committee trainings to JSOC committees to make sure that every JSOC community didn't just say they were cross-communal, but was actively doing cross-communalism. That's really important.
Thank you. Daniel?
So I'd probably change representation because I think we're inherently a representative organisation in everything we do at being UJS. We elect the president, we elect our national council, we elect our deputies on the board of deputies. So what would I change it to? I would change it to democracy, which is, yes, similar, but also a bit different. We really need to focus on strengthening our democratic processes in UJS so we can be an organisation that is truly cross-communal, truly diverse, and truly representative. We need to improve these democratic processes. We shouldn't just make it feel like it's a once-a-year experience at convention. We need to have transparency and accountability throughout the year. So I would empower the National Council, I would increase transparency through the work of what the deputies are doing, and I would increase accountability on the president by having them be on campus and be receptive to Q&As where they can be challenged on what they're doing. So that is what you would see with me as president.
Thank you. And Naomi?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one I would change is cross-communalism, and I would change it very simply to community. Inherent in the idea of cross-communalism is this idea that there are separations in our community, and I would really work to unite us behind one stronger community through small practical measures which we could achieve within a year. From things like creating a forum for LGBTQ+ officers and bigger events to ensure that they can really thrive on campuses, even when those campuses are small and the community is inherently a smaller size. I would also work with women to ensure they always feel fully included in our community. Often they report that it feels male-dominated, especially at drinking events, and introducing measures like sober supporters to ensure they feel safe and comfortable would really help with that issue. I would also ensure that communication is at the forefront of everything UJS does. Our community only works when we engage in discussion. And the Jewish community is certainly one which is full of conversation and arguments. And I think we should foreground that. It really is one of our greatest strengths. I know from speaking to Jewish students that they all say community is what's most important to them. And I would put that back at the heart of UJS.
Thank you. So we're not quite in the UJS offices, we're 2 floors down, but you get the vibe that we basically are. So you arrive for your first day. What is the first thing you're going to do? First thing. Daniel, I'll start with you.
I think we need to foster comprehensive Israel engagement, and I'll tell you why. I think that we have seen increasing divides within our community over the past year. It's undeniable. We are seeing divides in our community. We must heal them. We must take action to do so. We need to bring Jewish students together in the same room to have difficult conversations about this issue. We cannot get away from it. It's the elephant in the room for a reason. We have to provide comprehensive Israel engagement that tackles the direct issues and talks about them. We have to show leadership in the issue and in our community to bring people together and maintain communal engagement for the long term.
Amazing. Naomi?
I think the first thing I would do is talk to my team and talk to every single JSOC president in the country. Ultimately, UJS is a union. It works for a large group of people, and I as an individual could not possibly represent them without starting that journey through more communication. As I said earlier, discussion is so important. I think the biggest thing that needs to shift is a stronger focus on SABs physically being on campuses and having the difficult conversations about what things aren't working and what things are working to really rebalance and work out where UJS can really most strongly support students. Campus now is very different than it was 2 years ago. It's different now even than it was a year ago. October 7th changed our community, and we have to work with that. But to really identify what changes we need most, we should talk to every single JSOC, because every single part of that community needs something slightly different.
And Lily?
Look, I've spent months talking to Jewish students across the country about what it is they want to see changed by UJS. And to be honest, we've all got amazing big ideas for UJS, and we'll talk about them and they're great, but we've got to get the basics right. So I would sit every SAB down on my first day and we talk about those basics. We talk about supporting every single JSOC across the UK and Ireland, from Scotland to Wales to Ireland to Northern Ireland to England. We talk about the constant support that SABs need to provide to all of those JSOCs, be it in quick reply times, be it in resources, be it in physically being there on campus. And we talk about making sure that JSOC committees are empowered to lead, right? JSOCs are where the majority of Jewish students get their Jewish student life on campus. And it's UJS's job to empower every JSOC committee around the country to lead that work. So we would, on the very first day, plan the first committee training weekend, where we would get all of the JSOC committees in a room together and talk about how we can really tangibly improve the delivery of Jewish student life on campus. Let's get the basics right.
Thank you. So, thirdly, who is your biggest Jewish role model? Naomi, let's start with you.
I think my biggest Jewish role model is Laura Marks. For those of you who aren't aware of the icon that she is, she's a fantastic woman who founded Mitzvah Day, Nisan Hashim, amongst other charities. She currently works for the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust, and the work she does has truly been foundational in building interfaith relationships and awareness of Jewish life in the UK. I think she comes from a very progressive standpoint, and she really represents that very well on the Jewish stage. I think she's a perfect example of the diversity and joy in the Jewish community.
Louis?
I spent a lot of time thinking about this question. It's a really, really difficult one, because the truth is, it's so hard to pick one person, because I think I try to learn something from everyone I encounter. I guess recently I've been really inspired by small JSOC presidents. And one in particular, one of my good friends in Belfast, she set up Belfast JSOC from scratch pretty much and totally transformed it. Now Belfast is a place that means a lot to me. My dad's from Belfast, my family still live there. It's a tiny Jewish community. They don't have any infrastructure that we in London, for example, have. And I think the work that she did to create this community where there was none was so inspiring. That's the power of Jewish student life to me. And so I think the way we talk about small and regional JSOCs in UJS can often be a little bit patronising. What can we do for small JSOCs? I don't like that. I think that small JSOC presidents and people who work in small JSOCs and support small JSOCs are some of the most inspiring people in our community. I learn so much from them every single day. And so I think at the moment they are my role models.
For me, it's easy. It's my grandma. I call her Omi. I mean, she's just the most amazing person in the world. She's literally my best friend, and she's so impressive because she was a refugee. She was born in Vienna. She had to flee with her parents because of the Holocaust. She lost her grandparents, and she managed to come to the UK eventually and build a life for herself. And she's done so much work and activism. She's been at the forefront of conversations on the environment. I mean, 30 years ago, she was talking about climate change when no one else was. She's always done work for refugees. And what I take from that is that desire to get stuck in. And her values influence my values every day, and they will if I win this election.
Amazing. You've all done way better than me. When last year everyone said their mums and I just didn't, and I got in so much trouble. So
I'm sure we do also love our mums.
True.
That's why I had to make that pretty clear.
She's an
last year.
icon.
I'll say hi to my mum. It's probably watching. It's for work.
Yeah,
Okay.
it should be. If not, it will go up on our YouTube after. So no one panic.
Okay.
It will be on YouTube.
Amazing.
So everyone can re-watch this. So next, how do you plan to support international students? Louis, we'll start with you.
Oh, it's a great question. I've been one. I went on a year abroad last year. I went to Australia, to Melbourne. I had a great time. But I saw the challenges that you face. You enter a Jewish community where... I was talking to a Jewish student about this the other day, actually. He said to me, it feels like a high school reunion for a high school I didn't go to, which I think is really compelling, right? That really captures what it feels like to be an international student walking into JSOCs that, for many, are dominated by Jewish students who grew up in the London Jewish bubble. How do you support them? There's various different ways of doing it. I think we need an international student network that is attuned to the needs of international students, whether that's providing them with buddying systems with families in the local Jewish community so they have a Friday night dinner to go to every week. It's things as simple as that to support international students that I think, frankly, are really important. So I'd make that a priority for sure, to make sure that every single JSOC around the country has the support that they need to support their international students. And I'd also make sure that it's the international students within UJS, the international student JSOC presidents that are leading that work. Let's put them at the forefront of dictating what they need rather than telling them what that might be.
Daniel?
Well, this is quite relevant because I passed a motion with the help of Joshua Heinrich last year at the convention, which really sought to forefront the concerns of international students. And I think that it is really important to recognise that a lot of non-Northwest London Jews at times don't feel so welcome in our JSOCs. We need to improve that. We need to have a bit of a culture change at times to really put their concerns first. We need to hold events which appeal to them. And I would work with EUJS and UJS to try and foster these links with international students between them and their JSOCs before they even arrive at uni. We really need to forefront their concerns and try to make JSOCs welcoming places, not just for international students, but also people who didn't grow up in Northwest London anyway.
I'd like to start by seconding everything Daniel and Louis have just said. I really agree with both of those ideas. I really understand the British Jewish community is a very specific environment, and coming into that environment can often be very challenging. I would introduce a JSOC family scheme so that every new student in JSOC is paired up, and that would of course include international students, so they can be familiarised with some of our unique vocabulary, unique mannerisms, some of the unique cultural norms of our community that we hold so dear. It would help them to get to know people, get to know their families, and really feel integrated before even taking that first step in the UK. I would also ensure that there is clear guidance on how to navigate the UK systems. Our university systems are different to other university systems, and I would provide guides to ensure they know how to access everything from religious provisions to reporting anti-Semitism to knowing who our communal organisations who are important are, so signposting things like CST to them. I know it's hard for international students in the UK, but they're part of our union, and that's why it's so important we make sure they're included across the year.
Thank you. Next, how do you plan, and this is quite a personal one, coming from host Durham, how do you plan to make the UJS more accessible to students on smaller or more remote campuses? Daniel, I'll start with you.
I made this a very big part of my manifesto because it's such a crucial issue that we need to get right. And I do want small JSOC presidents to lead the way on this. And I've come up with a few ideas to help to try and support them to increase collaboration and improve the events that small JSOCs can hold. And I think that's in the interest of all of these small JSOCs to link up and hold better events. So I will tailor the funding system to try and work better for them. A lot of the time, small JSOC presidents, they can be out of pocket, waiting for reimbursements. We need to try and fix this. This is a big issue. So a pre-event grant system, especially for long-term costs, would really go a long way in actually in improving infrastructure for these JSOCs. I would also introduce a regional travel fund, which is really, really important in linking these JSOCs together and holding better events for everyone. And it's a snowball effect. If you hold better events, you get greater turnout, and then you generate more revenue, and then you can hold even better events. So to me, it's quite simple. As well as I would also get the SABs to visit them more.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Naomi?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are two main ways I would want to help small and regional JSOCs, and those focus on the two different challenges of being small and also regional. For small JSOCs, I would work on helping them connect with the JSOCs around them. So many of the big national UJS projects are only really accessible to big JSOCs who can get the numbers. Sports teams is a massive issue, and I would help regional JSOCs, small JSOCs, to connect with other small JSOCs to form teams, so they have people to train with, people to play against, so they can be part of the fantastic student sport that's really, really growing. And for regional JSOCs, I would ensure they have greater SAB attendance, so that they can have vital resources and support right with them on campus. And for both of those groups, we have our Community Development Grant, a new initiative to help support JSOCs who want to try something different, and that is something that isn't currently covered by UJS's funding. It also provides upfront funding, which is especially helpful for small JSOCs who often have less money in their bank accounts. Small JSOCs are just as important and need just as much support as the big JSOCs, and I would really put them at the forefront of everything UJS does next year.
Thank you. And Louis?
I mean, this is incredibly important to me. My beloved Edinburgh JSOC is very much a remote JSOC, but it's not small anymore. We built it up as a community, and then we helped others. We helped Glasgow JSOC and St Andrews JSOC and Belfast JSOC. We connected the region together. So I guess the first thing to say is, I get it. And I think that's a problem that small JSOCs see with UJS so often. I mean, just coming from a larger university, you don't quite understand the experience of being in a JSOC that's really far from London, far from the core of British Jewry, I guess. I think the second thing is, I would make sure that small JSOCs and regional JSOCs are a part of every single policy on my manifesto. So it's not about throwing them a bone, saying we'll do this or we'll do that. It's just making sure that everything we do, everyone can access, whether that's sports teams, whether that's national interfaith events, whether that's speaker tours around the country, get it everywhere. And finally, we need to show up for small JSOCs. SABs need to be there. The UJS president needs to be there. It's time to get out, get around the country as soon as possible and speak to every single JSOC.
Amazing. And you all obviously have incredible manifestos, doing an incredible job in the first week of campaigning. So if you could fulfil only one of your manifesto promises, which one would it be and why? Naomi, we'll start with you.
I think the first one would be the Community Development Grant. I think it's fundamental to everything, and it could help in so many different ways. JSOCs need funding, and they often need it quickly, for every single project. I know I've already mentioned sports and Minyanim, but it would also help expand anti-Semitism awareness training, which can often be consuming on people's time and travel needs, and it would really help to fulfill that. It would also help provide more social events and the spaces we really, really need. Funding and money can't solve everything, but sometimes just a little bit more can incentivise and encourage growth in ways that could really, really change our student community.
And Louis?
I think it's time to move from reactive to proactive when we're tackling anti-Semitism. I think it's fundamentally important, and I think UJS has to lead that work. And to be honest, I think that's the hot button topic right now. And so if there's only one thing I could achieve in my manifesto, it would be setting up my anti-Semitism on-campus task force. UJS has incredible power to convene national leaders in politics, in business, law, media. Let's get them all in a room. Let's sit down with students and say, how are we going to tackle anti-Semitism on campus? Not next week, but in the next 2 years, and 3 years, and 4 years. We need to start getting serious. Look, institutional problems require institutional solutions. It's on us to work out what those are. And so if there's one thing I could achieve, it would be starting that work. And I'd hope that if I was to win, that would be my legacy.
I would also like to combat anti-Semitism at its roots. And it's so important because if we combat anti-Semitism, we can have an amazing time on campus. And how would I do that? We need a genuinely proactive approach that has bolder and braver solutions. I would launch a mass public information campaign to reach out to ordinary non-Jewish students because quite frankly, we don't do enough of it. And most anti-Semitism comes from them. Yes, I will continue the SU officer training, it's so important, but we need to expand that. We need to extend it to ordinary non-Jewish students. And as an extension of this, I will get in the room and have the difficult conversations that are required with people on campus who may profoundly disagree with us and may make us feel uncomfortable at times, but we need to get in the room with them to try and reduce hostility. That is what I would want to do, and that is what I want my legacy to be, if I want.
Incredible points. And you have all been heavily involved in Campus Live, all of you have been on committee in some way, shape or form. So what has been your greatest achievement on campus so far? Louis, we'll start with you.
Look, I spent a year as Edinburgh JSOC president, and we won JSOC of the year, so I guess that would be the obvious one, but I'm actually not going to use that as the answer. I'm going to use something from the past few weeks, which is that a group of students, I call them an extreme group of students on our campus, glorified October the 7th in a social media post, in a protest, and it was unacceptable, and it made Jewish students feel terrified, quite frankly. And so I got in a room with the Vice-Chancellor, the Vice-Principal, and other senior members at the university, and I started a campaign. And I pushed, and I pushed, and I pushed, and eventually, a few weeks later, the university announced that they were formally disengaging with that group in an open letter until they stop using rhetoric that makes certain communities on campus feel unsafe and unwelcome. That happened this month. It was a massive transformational moment for Jewish students in Edinburgh. And that's the sort of experience and know-how that I would want to take across the country and share with JSOC presidents, as I already have done, by the way, from Leeds to Glasgow. But I'd want to do that more if I was to win. I think that's UJS president.
I'm actually also going to not focus so much on what I did on JSOC committee, because we had some great achievements, but I want to focus on something slightly different. I helped to co-found Bristol Friends of Standing Together, and it's a great initiative that really has an important effect on the ground. We have had so many important conversations with people on campus and elsewhere in Bristol. We've brought people together and we've not been afraid to actually try to have reasonable and peaceful dialogue. And I think it makes such a big difference. We can link that to interfaith work as well. I mean, I was so proud of the interfaith work that we did in Bristol. Yes, it's been harder, but we need to go further with it. So I think trying to bring people together and have the difficult conversations, that's what I'm all about, and that's what you'll see if I win.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most proud about has got to be our anti-Semitism awareness training scheme. As campaigns officer, I delivered anti-Semitism awareness training sessions to 40% of all freshers, and being in that room and seeing the reactions of my non-Jewish friends to learning what I would consider to be the basics was fantastic. And it really changed how they viewed my life as a Jewish student, and also changed how they viewed speaking about difficult conversations. It gave them the resources and the skills to tackle some of the difficulties of dealing with Judaism on campus. It made them aware of the more fun things of being Jewish as well, such as keeping Shabbat, our festivals, and it also made them aware of JSOC. It's something I'm incredibly proud of, and I really think something we need to keep on pushing for next year.
Amazing. Thank you all. Incredible achievement. You should be very proud of yourselves. So it comes up a lot that people kind of know their JSOC, but they don't know that UJS kind of helps support it, or people know UJS but don't know that it works with JSOC. Or people just don't really get involved with their JSOC. So how do you plan to engage and encourage the students on campus who are disengaged from Jewish life? Daniel, we'll start with you.
Well, I just think we have to put on better and more diverse events for different people. And this ties into cross-communalism as well. The religious aspect, yes, is only one aspect of it, but it's very important. because we need to have truly cross-communal programming. Cross-communalism is not just about having provision for people of different denominations. Yes, that's a big part of it, but we need to get people in the same room together so they can understand each other's backgrounds and their differences. So, for example, I told a speaker tour of different speakers from different denominations, which doesn't happen enough. We don't have progressive, Masorti and Orthodox rabbis going to campuses together and having discussions. I mean, look, on the other hand, it's not just a religious thing, it's also about recognising what do the JSOCs actually want? What do small JSOCs actually want? We need to listen to them and we need to hold events that truly cater towards them. Because sometimes, I've been told this, sometimes Friday night dinners aren't actually the best use of a small JSOC's time. They'd rather have another type of social. We should try and think about these things and think outside of the box to try and get people to be more engaged.
Naomi?
I don't think there's any one umbrella policy that can include every single group. Every group has specific needs that need specific measures. To give some examples, people who come from outside of North West London, we have our JSOC family scheme to help them integrate. For women, we'd have our women's mentorship scheme. For LGBTQ+ students, we have events for them. But I also think something that's really important is to have UJS not just include, but also advocate and celebrate those groups. It's not enough to say that we support Jews from outside of North West London. We should be celebrating their roots and celebrating the massive Jewish history in the UK that isn't only from London. We should be celebrating our LGBTQ+ students by sending a delegation to Pride every year. And we should be really, really working with every group to ensure that their needs are so completely met, they feel comfortable being celebrated and published amongst our Jewish community.
It's a timely question because I was in Leeds for Shabbat and I was speaking to a student who said, I don't feel represented by UJS. And someone said, of course you're represented by UJS, you can vote in the election, that's representation. And we got to the point where we sort of all realised that what he didn't mean was representation, but what he meant was belonging, right? People sometimes don't feel like they belong in UJS spaces or in the UJS community or even in their JSOCs. So how do you create a sense of belonging? I think you create a sense of belonging by making people feel seen, making people feel heard. I want to have a Jewish Culture, History and Diversity Week on campuses across the country where we are celebrating different parts of the Jewish community, sharing in that with others. And I think, as Naomi said, you have to address certain groups in a bespoke way. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach to inclusion. So I want to go around the country with this JSOC cultural review, learning from different communities, amplifying their voices and making tangible change. That's something I did in Edinburgh. The LGBTQ+ community in Edinburgh did not feel represented by JSOC. They did not feel comfortable in JSOC spaces. When I was president, I created a representative role for them on committee, and with our amazing LGBTQ+ rep, we ran the first ever Pride Friday night dinner in Edinburgh. The enfranchisement of that was unbelievable. It was so powerful. That experience has inspired me and motivated me to run for this role and to help do that for Jewish students across the country.
Amazing, thank you. So there's always kind of a joke where every president has like that one challenge of the year, like every year something happens, you can't really get away with it. So what is the biggest challenge that you think is facing UJS in the coming years and how would you address it as president? We'll start with you.
I think it's what I said earlier. It's the massive shift we've seen in campus. JSOCs aren't the same, UJS isn't the same, the UK isn't the same. October 7th changed the landscape of geopolitics, and that's reflected on our campuses. And we have to work to change with it. And the biggest challenge is working out where to start. It's no longer good enough to keep reacting to specific incidents. We have to be proactive and have a plan on how to tackle things. And that begins by fighting anti-Semitism at its roots, through training, lobbying universities, holding the government to account. But it also works by raising awareness through large public-scale facing campaigns. People understand the nuances of anti-Semitism and what it means to be Jewish. And it ends with celebrations, with joy. It's things like Booze for Jews that really bring us together and also signal to all of our non-Jewish friends that we're proud of being Jewish and we're not going to stop showing that pride every single day.
Amazing. Thank you, and Louis?
I think, it's hard not to echo that. We're in a new normal right now. I think it's fair to say. And so there are three things I would do to genuinely, proactively tackle anti-Semitism through my Year of Zero Tolerance on Anti-Semitism campaign. One is the Anti-Semitism on Campus task force that I talked about, bringing experts together to think not just about next week, but about the next 2 or 3 years. The second is, anti-Semitism awareness training is great. I want there to be a second level, an anti-Semitism allyship program for university and student union leaders to truly understand what the Jewish student experience is like, so that we can have friends who fight with us. And finally, making a tackling anti-Semitism toolkit for every JSOC committee. I would want that to be ready before term starts so that every committee can hit the ground running with examples of best practice, strategies, advisors, so they know what to do to lead the fight on their campus. That's how we set ourselves up for the new normal.
Amazing. Daniel?
Look, this past year has been a hugely challenging year, and both Naomi and Louis are right. It is a new normal. I've spoken extensively about anti-Semitism and how I will proactively combat it. But I think that we are facing a big long-term challenge, and that is disillusionment with our community. We're seeing it in increasing levels. We're seeing less cohesion than before, and we need to address it. We can address it on campus. This is through fostering comprehensive Israel engagement. This is through making everyone truly feel heard in UJS and bringing people together to actually have the difficult conversations. We also need to show leadership on issues. I mean, you look at America, for example, and actually they are experiencing complete polarization and division in their Jewish community to a very large extent. We need to ensure that that does not happen in the UK. And fostering comprehensive Israel engagement is a huge part of that, and we need to do it now.
Thank you. Sorry. Why do you believe you are the best candidate to lead UJS during this critical time that you've all talked about? And what makes your approach unique? You've all kind of put yourself out there to run for this role at quite a challenging time. So why do you believe you are the best candidate? Louis, we'll start with you.
I think I have the breadth and depth of experience that's needed at this critical moment in our community's history. Look, I was Edinburgh JSOC president for a year. It was a community that was small, became big, won JSOC of the year. I think I fostered a sense of Jewish pride on campus in Edinburgh, but I also combated anti-Semitism, as I've talked about. I protected the IRA definition in Edinburgh. I got a group of students that glorified October the 7th disengaged from by the university. But I didn't just leave it in Edinburgh. I've helped Jewish students and I've helped JSOC presidents from Glasgow to Leeds to Melbourne, quite frankly, in doing this themselves, in tackling them, in supporting them. I've had late night calls with various different JSOC presidents in the past 6 months discussing all sorts of campaigns issues. I've done this all, helping Jewish students around the country, and I feel like I'm ready to step up and lead UJS in doing it too.
Thank you.
I have lots of experience in our community, and I had so much experience in Bristol, first as VP and then as an elder advising the new committee and helping them over the past year. But I also have I've got a great understanding within our community and how it functions. On the Board of Deputies, I've been at the forefront of conversations with our communal leadership. I understand how it works, I understand how to make change in our community. I've been on the international division for the board, and now I co-chair its two-state solution working group. I'm doing some of the most cutting-edge work in our community on the real issues that matter. With me, you will see bolder and braver solutions. I think I'm not afraid to talk about the topics that are pressing at the moment. That is real leadership, and that's what you'll get with me.
Thank you.
I think there are three main things that a UJS president needs to do. The first is to work with JSOCs, the second is to work with other national bodies, and the third is to really understand the breadth of our community. I've had the experience to navigate all of those things. On the first level, with JSOCs, I've been JSOC president, and I was JSOC president before October 7th, and I really understood what that environment looked like. I ran big events, I ran themed Friday nights. I really ensured JSOC was a place where everyone felt welcome and comfortable and supported. Since October 7th, I've been campaigns officer, and I've been working with the university, the SU, to really ensure that throughout challenges such as the encampment, glorification of October 7th, we've had strong responses, and we've had action. On a national level, I've also been very, very involved. I went to an interfaith panel with King Charles and spoke about the importance of Jewish student leadership on campus and how we can work with other groups to ensure we're really united in discrimination. And my manifesto details how we can expand those plans. Last night, I released my interfaith policy focus, which talks about working with hope, not hate. And I'm really keen on expanding those plans. On a personal level, to meet that breadth of community that we've spoken about, I've done a lot. I grew up in the Orthodox community, but I've also worked with the progressive community, both as JSOC president and also on a personal level. I've held a wide range of roles in JSOC. I've not just been president in campaigns, I've also been LGBTQ+ officer and social action officer. I know how different each of those roles are. I know how much we need specific support for those things. And I also know how different the kinds of communities that get involved with those roles are.
Like, you want to carry on the sentence?
So I know I've got what it takes to be UJS president.
Amazing, thank you. And then in one sentence, what does being the president of UJS mean to you? Daniel, we'll start with you.
In one sentence, it's about getting in the room, having the difficult conversations, and showing leadership within our community with bolder and braver solutions.
Naomi?
For me, it's about ensuring our community is safe and thriving.
Giving every single Jewish student around the country a Jewish student life that they can be truly proud of.
Very sweet answers from you. So you all did our leadership fellowship, or are doing our leadership fellowship program, which is incredible. So describe your leadership style in 3 words and give an example of how you have applied it in the past. Naomi, we'll start with you.
Sure. I mean, I think the most important thing for a leader to be is communicative. I can't lead a community without knowing what they need. Community and communication share a root for a reason. So the first word, communication. The second word, I think, is an ability to take feedback. It's so important to adjust and adapt to what things are and aren't going well. And I think thirdly, understanding. Really being able to empathise with the groups around you and showing them that you care and that you will do the action they can take. So yeah, communication, feedback, and understanding.
Amazing. And Louis?
I think the 3 words I would choose are listening, supporting, and empowering. I think that is how you lead a community. You listen to what they want, what they need, what they're looking for, what makes them feel unwelcome in a space. I did that in Edinburgh, for example, when I set up the LGBTQ+ representative role. You support them in dealing with the challenges that they face. I've supported JSOC presidents in Leeds, in Glasgow, in Melbourne to tackle anti-Semitism. And you empower them to then go and lead themselves. I've supported all the following JSOC presidents after me in Edinburgh in building on the work that we've done, in creating a really proud, strong community there. So I think listening, supporting, and empowering is fundamental to how I lead.
Easy. And Daniel?
So I've had to think about this, and actually I think these have really been strengthened and proved by the campaign so far. And actually, when you're managing a team of people, it really does equip you with all of these skills, and it really strengthens them. So I would choose conviction, communication, and delegation. What do I mean by that? I think with conviction, you have to have really strong conviction as a leader. You have to know that you're making the right decision, and you have to be strong that you know it's what is best for the organisation. You've got to be communicative. You have to manage the team around you, and that there can't be misunderstandings. And I really use that to communicate with JSOC presidents around the country, empowering them to do the work that they do best. And delegation, I mean, this ties into that as well. But I mean, over the past week, I've been delegating a lot. Sometimes in the past, I've been a bit of a perfectionist. I want to have control over what I'm doing. But actually, delegation is so crucial. And it's for people to tell you where you're going wrong and where you're going right. So I would delegate to JSOC presidents and my SAB team to really ensure that decisions are the best.
Amazing. Thank you all. Brilliant answers. So if you had to create a UJS mascot, what would it be and what would it represent? Louis, you first.
What a great one to go first on. A UJS mascot. Okay, so picture the scene. You've got, so every mascot is sort of a big costume, right? Someone wearing a big costume. I'm thinking you've got a big sort of Magen David, and you've basically on each of the 6 corners, you've got different kind of symbols of Jewish life on campus. So it could be a bagel, or it could be, I don't know, a netball. You've got the 6 different pillars that represent, I guess, the diversity of Jewish life on campus and the different things that UJS offer. I don't know, I went first, that's off the top of my head.
That is lovely. What a great answer. Daniel, we are on to like more silly questions.
No, these are the fun ones. So I would choose the Golem of Prague, and the Golem's a great... No, seriously, listen.
Sorry, I'll keep my mouth shut.
He's a great figure in Jewish folklore, and the meaning behind him is so important, because he's both a friendly figure who supports the community in Prague, and really allows them to flourish, but he also deals with the threat of anti-Semitism. And I think those 2 elements are so key in what UJS does. They're both supportive, and also they lead the way and combat anti-Semitism when it needs to. So I think a Golem of Prague, that maybe adding some UJS branding on him would be really great. You know, dress him up or something. I don't know.
Stunning.
I think I'm going to go down a more typical mascot route and pick an animal. The animal I'm going to pick is a camel. If you've read the Tara, if you've read any of the recent Parashot, they feature the entire time. But I also think camels are really interesting. They prepare for the future. They often help work communities. They help bring people together through travelling. And those are things I think are really important to Jewish student life. I also just think it's quite cute and fun.
Very nice. So, what is your go-to hype song and why? Daniel, you start.
I think basically anything by Taylor Swift. The Great War, it's a great song, it's from Midnight. My second favourite album, I was trying to get people to guess on my Instagram today. It's actually Folklore, is my favourite album. But The Great War by Taylor Swift, it slaps, gets me ready for the day and gets me ready to go.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Naomi?
One of my guilty pleasures is Jewish music. So to be honest, basically anything by Benny Friedman. But I'm going to focus on Harashah, which is just like a very upbeat, cheerful song. But yeah, literally anything by that man, even the sad ones, I treat as a hype song.
I've got a hype playlist, and I'm really struggling to pick one.
Go on, pick one.
Yeah, I know, I'm trying to think. To be honest, the campaign is exhausting. You guys all know this, right? So I think I always need some music to get me in the mood for the day, to get me out of bed. I'm quite a sort of, I don't know, schmaltzy, like a bit of like Lovely Day by Bill Withers kind of vibe. That featured on the campaign Instagram, you know, something like that, just to sort of put me in a good mood to start the day. Got to get out of bed the right side, you know?
Lovely. In fairness, when I drove to the first Hustings last year, I had the Victorious playlist on, because like there's nothing like a little like Nickelodeon music, like really that hype you up to take on. So we're now going to turn to the audience for some questions. So does anyone have? Yeah, go on.
So you all spoke about small JSOCs, large JSOCs, and like engagement, but obviously small JSOCs, you can only engage so many people, but in the larger JSOCs, Leeds, Birmingham, Nottingham, they've got hundreds and hundreds of Jews, but only so many on a Friday night, or only so many attending different events. How would you act on engaging more Jewish people to attend the JSOC events, instead of it just being the usual rotation of, let's say, 150 people coming to events? How would you try and engage 300 out of maybe the 600-700 people in one of the really big Jewish universities?
Naomi, I'm going to start with you for that one.
Yeah, sure. So this is actually a question I've been asking a lot when I've been speaking to people. It's a massive issue. Oftentimes, bigger JSOCs have the worst ratios in terms of engagement to actual Jewish students on campus. And I think the solution is having more of a diversity of offerings. So having more options for sports, that's a really great way of bringing people in who might not otherwise come to a Friday night. And having smaller events, especially at the start, that often don't involve alcohol, to make sure everyone feels welcome in the community. But I also think it's a case of making sure they feel represented, and also making sure people feel welcome from the moment they arrive. Oftentimes, the first JSOC event people go to is a big Friday night dinner, and especially at somewhere like Leeds, Birmingham, Nottingham, that could have 150 people at it. And if you don't know anyone, it's incredibly hard to walk in, find a seat, and get going. And that's where I think JSOC Families really comes in. You meet someone beforehand, and you have someone to help you through that first room. And then you have someone to help guide you through the struggles of it all. I think everybody, even on the bigger campuses and also on the small campuses, should be able to feel comfortable attending JSOC. And it's really, really important that we have the vital measures to bridge that gap between sixth form and starting university.
Thank you, and Louis.
Thank you for your question. It's a really important one. I think it's about diversifying UJS programming firstly. So, for example, with sport, I think it's about creating more sports teams in more places, ensuring there's equal parity in resourcing for men's and women's sports, ensuring that small JSOCs have the ability to have sports teams too. It's not just sport, let's support Jewish student music. I want to have a UJS Battle of the Bands, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think there should be a wider range of speaker tours across the country, bringing Jewish education to places so that people who want to learn about a different side of Jewish life, Jewish culture, also bring just interesting speakers, the sorts of speakers we have on the Leadership Fellowship, for example. Take them around the country, get people involved. But I think there's also a fundamental issue here, which is a lack of visibility, knowledge, understanding of UJS JSOC and what it has to offer. I would invest far more in the UJ6 programme, which is the programme for sixth formers. And what I would want to do is make sure that UJS is getting to people while they're still in school, both in Jewish schools and non-Jewish schools at JSOCs at those schools, talking to sixth formers about what Jewish student life involves, what they can get involved in, and also, reassuring them. I mean, campus is a pretty terrifying place at the moment if you're just reading the press, right? So reassuring Jewish students about what campus is really like and how they can get involved and throw themselves into Jewish student life, vital.
Daniel?
We have to engage more Jewish students. I mean, look, I know this from Bristol. We have struggled in the past turning people out who otherwise, who don't go to JSOC. And that is an issue. We need to get people in the room. And it's fundamentally by providing an array of different events, whether that's pub nights or Friday night dinners, of course, but also making sure that they do really cater to people. I want to host a national LGBTQ plus Friday night dinner in LGBTQ plus History Month. I think that's really important. I want to see more national UJS events. I think you look at Booze for Jews last week, and we all had a great time. We need to do more of it. I mean, it's great for Jewish students to meet other Jewish students. They might not go to any other events, but I think that's really crucial. So I want to host a national UJS Purim party, for example. I think it would be great fun. We've had some really good ones at Bristol. And I think we really need to make sure that JSOC cultures are welcoming and inclusive for all Jews, even if you're not from North West London. So it's a variety of events and really focusing on people. Yeah.
Any other questions? Go on, Toby.
UJS on an international scale is a force to be reckoned with. How will, if you were to be elected as president, bring the hype and help bring the hype to UJS members at events in Europe or internationally at EUJS or WUJS events? How would you help bring the hype and show the rest of the world what UJS is made of as such a great organisation?
Do you want to hear that?
Thanks, Toby, for the question. I mean, I've seen the sort of power of international Jewish student life. When I was in Australia, I became a really big part of UJS, got really involved, stuck in, spoke in Australian Parliament to politicians about what Jewish students are going through. You know, I think working with our partners, we can learn so much. And so I think it's really important to build stronger ties with WUJS, with EUJS. I think we should be bringing bigger contingents and more representative contingents of sort of the diversity of UJS life to these places, to Summer U, to WUJS Conference, all of these. I think that at the fundamental level, it's about showing up, right? And so I think that's really important. And also, so many Jewish students don't know about these opportunities in the UK. We do a terrible job of advertising the variety of international opportunities that we have. We need to get the word out. We need to spread the word. We need to tell JSOC so they can tell their members the different things they can get involved in. Let's not look sort of inwards, but I think we really do have to look outwards.
Daniel?
Yeah, I agree. It's necessary to really try and bring bigger contingents to these events. I sadly couldn't make EUJS Summer U this year, but it seems it was really fun, as Toby, I'm sure you would explain to people. I wish I was there. And we need to try and encourage Jewish students to go in whatever way that is. I mean, on the Leadership Fellowship, we have grants, and it would be great if people use them to go on these trips to other places, but we need to communicate them. And we need to have bigger contingents because, it's sometimes disappointing when we don't see many Jewish students from the UK going to European events or WUJS Conference. We need to have more people in the room representing us and our diversity.
I think the solution to the problem of international engagement starts right here in the UJS offices in Golders Green. So many Jewish students in the UK have no idea what the other international organisations are because the UK very rarely hosts international events. I think it's time we take one here. We bring delegations to the UK, so the UK has a big delegation because we're the hosts. And from then on, students would know what the opportunities are, and it would really help to reassert the UK's place in those organisations. I think we have to show willingness in order to get the kind of welcome we really deserve back from the international community.
Such a fitting question, because one of the first things you do as president is go and meet all of the different unions at a big conference, and it's a lot of fun. Some of them are crazy. So prepare yourself. That.
Okay, it's kind of a lengthy question, but I feel like I need to give context. Something happened on Saturday that kind of upset me a bit, and I'd like to go through it and see how you would deal with it. So lots of Jewish collections have been happening like across the country in different campuses. But Nottingham is like quite much later. We do it in March, but people are talking about it already. And I apologise if she ever watches this video that I'm talking about this. But it's not personal in any way, so it's fine. But like just in case.
Can we have a different question, just if there's a risk, and you can ask them all separately afterwards? I'd appreciate. Sorry.
Oh no, it's she said that she wouldn't want to run if a man was running for president.
Okay.
How there's no personal information in that.
Okay.
how do we encourage, and that really made me upset, like how do we encourage women to run for roles in JSOC committees and empower them to be future leaders of the Jewish community?
Daniel, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is very important to me, and it's a very important issue. We need SABs to actively encourage and support female leaders to be on JSOC committees. It's an issue and it needs to improve. And I think, yeah, SABs really need to take a role in the lead up to elections to try and make sure that we've got women to go on these committees. And there are women leaders around the country. They just need the support sometimes because of these institutional problems that we have at JSOC sometimes. I think also continuing the fellowship and the amazing work that's been done on it to generate our student leaders of tomorrow, that's really important as well. But I think, yeah, SAB's taking an active role in really trying to make an effort so that JSOC committees are diverse places. Because in my first year at Bristol, for example, it wasn't good enough. We had a committee of maybe 13 people and I think 10 of them were men. And that's not good enough. We need SABs to take an active role in this.
Amazing, Amy.
I mean, it's an issue I really, really relate to. In my first year of JSOC, I considered running for JSOC president. 2 guys were going to run. Did I want to go against them? It took, to be honest, a man telling me I should do it. And that's not good enough. I shouldn't have been sat there as someone with experience and capabilities questioning whether or not I could or couldn't run for JSOC president. And the same thing happened again with UJS. It's intimidating to put yourself out there, and I know how hard it can be. And I think there are solutions to help the problem. I think we need the big flagship stuff. We need representation on a national level. We need women in positions of leadership to be role models and to throw a ladder down to help people really, really achieve what they want to do. That would involve empowering people through one-on-one conversations, but also more structurally through a mentorship scheme. I know UJS has just announced a Women's Empowerment Network, and really building on that to connect people to strong women leaders in the Jewish community, such as Laura Marks I mentioned earlier, but there really are so many others. I also think it really is a problem that needs to happen at each individual JSOC. Most JSOCs have women's officers by now. Not all of them do, and that needs to change. We need women on the ground to understand what the specific issues are that are limiting women from getting involved, to really work out what the solution in that condition is. As UJS president, as a woman, I would make sure that every single woman on campus felt empowered.
Louis?
Thank you for the question. I mean, it's really upsetting to hear that, and it's definitely not just the case in Nottingham. I've heard from various students in other campuses that they also feel like their JSOC is too male-dominated a space that they wouldn't want to put themselves forward as role models, and that's a real problem that we all need to be addressing in UJS. I think the Women's Empowerment Network is a great start. Creation of role models and connecting to sort of women role models in the community is really, really important to sort of incentivize that step up. That's something I've spoken to about with many women in JSOCs across the country, about how they saw role models in sort of Jewish student leadership, and that encouraged them to then take that next step. I also think we need to talk about this. So something I did when I was JSOC president is I ran a collaborative event with the Feminist Society about women in Judaism and women in leadership in Judaism. The JSOC FemSoc collab created those conversations and actually made us start to reflect a little bit more about our own JSOC and sort of structural misogyny within our JSOC. And finally, I think, look, it's important to say, I don't have all the answers, and we don't have all the answers right now. We need to do the research to work out what is fully at the cause, what is at the heart of why people feel excluded from their JSOCs. So I want to do a JSOC cultural review, interview people around the country, spend a year doing the work to work this out, and empower committees with the answers that we find.
Thank you. Amazing. Great to hear that the legacy of female empowerment will continue post this year. We're going to go to one final question before your closing statements, and whoever wants to go first can go first. So finally, what is one thing you admire about each candidate? Whoever wants to go first. Okay, go on.
I'll go first.
Go on.
Sure. Daniel, I think being a deputy on the Board of Deputies is incredible. I think it's really, really important to represent young Jewish people to the wider Jewish community at large. I think that's really, really important. It's really important work that you're doing. So I guess thank you on behalf of Jewish students. And Nemi, I was reading your manifesto and looking at your social media, and one policy that really, really stuck with me is the interfaith cycling tour. I mean, it's just genius. Like, I think interfaith work is incredibly important, and I think working with other communities and visiting crucial places in cities that mean something to communities is really important, right? So I think that's something that I've been motivated by and inspired by. I'd love to bring that to Edinburgh, so I'm going to be chatting to Nikki, who's at the back of the room, about doing that in Edinburgh. Because yeah, that's a really, really brilliant idea. So, comic avoid, I guess.
Do you ever want to go next?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, firstly for Louis, and sort of on a similar note, your role on the National Council, I think that's really important. You've been doing very good work, and I really want to strengthen the National Council so we can see it really go from strength to improve UJS democracy. I think that's really, really important, and well done on all the work. And for Naomi, I think the campaigning that you've done against anti-Semitism has been tireless. You've really done a fantastic job on it. And you've got some really great policies in your manifesto that are actually fairly similar and we agree on. I think the mass public information campaign is something that I very much resonate with and is part of my proactive approach. And I think it's a really great idea that is in your manifesto as well.
I think I want to answer a little bit more personally. I've known Daniel since we were 11. And one thing I would like to say about Daniel is his integrity. Daniel has been very consistent from a very young age, and I really love being sat here with you and knowing that very little's changed. Still the same guy I met in year 7. And I think for Louis, it's very similar. It's his honesty about his experiences and your willingness to engage in new conversations and topics that might not have come from those experiences as well. It's really inspiring. So, yeah.
Amazing. So lovely, a really nice and kind of positive end. So now we're going to turn to, well, it actually depends whether you think being the same as you are in year 7's compliment.
Well, I don't know.
Actually, like, some things have changed, but like, personality-wise,
Getting out of
he's
the
same.
hole, yeah. I'm joking.
It's a compliment.
We've been friends for a very long time, just for the record. Yeah.
So we're now going to turn to closing statements. So you all have 1 minute, and we're going to go in reverse, alphabetical last name order. So starting with Daniel, whenever you are ready.
It's time for a president who truly wants to do something different. I will offer bolder and braver solutions to the big problems. I know what I need to do to improve UJS. I have the experience to do so, and I want to take you with me. I have always been at the forefront of difficult conversations, working to make campus a safer place and fostering dialogue within our own community. I want UJS to truly represent you and the diversity of opinion within our community while showing leadership on the important issues. Peer leadership is such a crucial value. It's the beauty of JSOCs and UJS, Jewish students providing for other Jewish students in every sense. I will therefore ensure every JSOC receives real tailored support, and I will take into account the unique issues which affect Jewish students throughout the UK and Ireland. Through my vision for UJS, I will truly defend and enrich Jewish life on campus. It's time for a bolder, braver UJS. Now vote for one by voting for me.
Bad sound. Louis, whenever you're ready.
I've totally loved travelling around the country this past week. I've never eaten so many bagels. But most of all, I've been struck by the uniting experience that we've all felt. We've all found the past year difficult, but we all want to recapture Jewish pride. We've spent an hour talking about the work that UJS can do to make that happen, to represent as many Jewish students as possible, to empower us to step up and lead. I'd be so excited and so honoured to have the chance to lead this amazing organisation to new heights. If you want a Jewish student life that embraces Jewish pride, celebrates Jewish diversity, and stands united in the face of challenges, trust me, you're not the only one. So vote Louis Danker for UJS President.
Thank you. And Naomi, whenever you're ready.
Tonight we've discussed the importance of UJS's core values of peer leadership and representation, and my plans to continue expanding UJS's work on these core areas. To recap, I will ensure Jewish students feel empowered and uplifted in their committee roles. I will also welcome in and encourage individuals from groups which are typically less engaged in my plans for a network of progressive chaplains, LGBTQ+ events, women's mentorship, and increased inclusion of religious students. I will also establish the UJS Community Development Grant to encourage and help new student initiatives, and its upfront funding will be especially beneficial to small JSOCs and sports teams. I also outlined my plans for a bridge between UJ6 and Freshers Week through broadening existing JSOC family schemes, which are integral to integrating students from outside the bubble. I know how important it is that every single Jewish student feels welcome in their JSOC to ensure our community can thrive and grow. I will work tirelessly to ensure my plans are enacted. I've got your back. Vote Bernstein.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all three of you. And that concludes our first husting for the UJS presidential election for this year. Thank you to our audience here and for taking the time online to watch. And remember that voting opens tonight at 7 p.m, so get involved. But also, outside of the presidential election, there is so much going on right now. The UJS convention is happening from the 13th to the 15th of December, and we are quite nearly at capacity. So make sure to sign up if you haven't already. As always, we know that a lot is still happening on campus. So if any events on campus have been triggering or you need any extra support, don't forget that UJS's 24/7 dedicated welfare hotline is open. You can call us on 020 7424 3281 to speak to one of our experienced staff or volunteers. As well as myself and your sabbatical officers are always here for you, and we can't wait to see you on campus soon. Bye!